Okay, well, thank you so much. Did Mark start it off right? Yeah. One of the reasons why we have Mark speaking today is not just to deliver a great message, but we are establishing a relationship with Growing Boulder that is going to benefit you guys. It's going to be an opportunity to tap into all of their resources and leverage their network for you locally. So we've got some awesome things coming that you want to be kind of keep in the back of your mind. All right, so Lindsay mentioned kind of doing some social media stuff. So I want everybody to get out your camera real quick. Get ready to snap a pic. Hone in on me here. I'm going to give you something to post. I'm only going to do it one time, okay? So you better get ready. All right, ready? Okay, this is it. Okay, that's it. That's all you got. Now, tag whatever you want, make any sort of headline. We'll see how creative you can be, okay? But, okay, I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, ready? Okay, again, that's it. You got to be quick. Okay, sorry. So let's see how creative you can be with that one. All right, I want you to do something a little bit more serious with me now. And I'm just going to have you, and by the way, this past year, I teach in a physical therapy program. And this past year, my students gave me an award. They gave me an honor. And the honor was for the loudest lecturer. That was my award. I have a tendency to project and be very loud. So I'm going to try to calm down, right? Be a little bit more soothing, okay, than I normally am. And so what I want you to do with me is I want you to just play along, humor me for a minute. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to imagine with me. So we are going to take a journey 1 year into the future. It is the 3rd annual Functional Aging Summit. You are showing up after having your best year ever. What does that look like to you? Have you helped more clients? Have you made more money? Have you grown personally? Are you satisfied and fulfilled with where your business has gone over the past 12 months? How does it feel? How satisfying is it? How rewarding is it? How excited are you to share your successes and your results with everybody else in the room? Okay, open your eyes. It's very possible. That is a very possible reality. One of the reasons why it's possible, as Mark so aptly stated, the opportunity is massive. The opportunity in front of all of us is tremendous. We spend a lot of time trying to get a lot of trainers in the industry to fully realize how incredible this opportunity is. And what's great is that we don't have to look at this as competition. We can look at it as cooperation between us, because there are right now over 120 million adults over the age of 50 in this country. 120 million. Imagine how big of a number that is. If you were to take just a small standard-sized water bottle, and that represented each of those people, and you laid them end to end, that would encircle the earth over 6 times. That's 120 million. This year was a really seminal year for the baby boomers. Does anybody know what happened with the baby boomers this year? They started turning 70. This is a new threshold for our aging population. And in fact, they now span from the early 50s to the age of 70. Therefore, they span 55, 60, 65, and 70 years of age. You know that every 2 seconds, somebody hits one of those new age categories. Every 2 seconds. Just in the 1 hour I'm going to spend with you, that's 1,800 people will hit those milestone ages. From the start of our summit this morning till we end tomorrow, that's over 59,000. When you come back next year, hint, hint, when you come back next year, over 16 million people will have hit those ages. And in 5 years, which will go by very quickly, won't it? In short 5 years, those boomers start turning 75, hitting a brand new age threshold. So the opportunity is massive, and it keeps growing. When people look at why they're not as successful as they could or should be, I think it comes down to a few simple ideas. It's not the economy. It's not that their local market is somehow different than everybody else's, or they've got circumstances that are so unique that all these rules and all these marketing strategies don't work. I really think comes down to, one, people don't know what to do. And with this demographic, that's very important because you've got to do things differently. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. What they're doing is they're doing very poorly, or they're just not taking action at all. What do you think is probably the most common issue with most fitness professionals? I think it's not taking action at all. It's spending too much time spinning the wheels about what you plan to do and what you hope to do, but never really taking the action. If you want to come back next year and live that which you envisioned just a few minutes ago, you're going to have to take a lot of action, a lot of massive, imperfect, chaotic, determined action. That's probably one of the biggest things that we do in our business coaching is, look, you know what to do. You've got to do it. You've got to get it done. Taking massive action can make a huge difference in your business. Let me give you one example. Dina Medina, who is one of our coaching clients, she was downsized from her corporate job and wanted to look at a new career. And so in October of 2014, she bought a gym. How hard could it be, she thought? Actually, a gym is a very nice word to describe what she bought. She bought a very crappy women's circuit curves knockoff. That's what she bought, okay? Small, old equipment. She had about 100 members, and she was making $3,500 a month in revenue. I'm barely paying the bills, right? She went from a pretty nice salaried job to a garbage facility making $3,500 a month. No real distinctiveness to her facility. Lots of other places in her area. A lot of competition that were all doing the same thing. That was a little over a year and a half ago. Since then, coming from the corporate area, she was not a trainer. She didn't have worlds of experience like you do. Since then, she's gotten certified in turbulence training. She's become a functional aging specialist. She became certified in the functional movement screen. She became certified in the group program strategy based on the functional movement screen. Just about a month ago, she became certified as a fall-proof balance enhancement specialist, inspired by Debbie Rose's talk last year. If you were here, you heard Debbie Rose talk about her program. That's not an easy program. You have to go through months of self-study and then spend 3 full days in practical training and practical assessment in order to get certified. It's very rigorous. Okay? She was in Evan Osar's corrective exercise workshop yesterday. She has had to take massive action that you probably don't have to take because you already know a lot of that stuff, right? You might be piling some more information on what you know, but she was starting off not knowing anything. She had to do all that in addition to learning, how do I do Facebook and Facebook marketing and direct marketing and sales? And I don't even know how to set up my membership programs. And she transitioned. Of course, we got her to get out of the circuit program and to develop a small group personal training program geared towards older adults, which she started last year. I'm happy to say the first quarter of this year, she made over $49,000. Pretty incredible. She is on pace to break $180,000 in less than 2 years, starting from somebody who didn't know anything about fitness and fitness training and fitness business, and she's just gone through, and trust me when I tell you, she is a whirlwind of chaos, okay? But she's had to take that massive action. That's how important it is for you to not just sit here and learn, but to put it into practice. Even if it's not perfect, just get it out there. You know, when we first got the functional aging specialist certification out there and put it online, I wasn't ready for it to be published because it wasn't perfect, right? There's so many other things that I wanted to do and fix, and actually there were typos and grammatical errors and numbers that didn't link up. And you know what we just had to do? We just had to get it out there, right? You just get it out there and you improve it as you go. That's what you do. You just have to continue to take that action. Today, what I'm going to talk about, it goes beyond really my title of a functional aging facility. Really what I'm going to focus on is how to create a functional aging business ecosystem. A business ecosystem. Back in the 1990s, James Moore introduced the strategic planning concept of a business ecosystem, which is now very popular in the high-tech community. And a business ecosystem is very simply this. A business ecosystem is the network of organizations involved in the delivery of a specific product or service through both competition and cooperation. I think it's really important that you view what you're doing as an ecosystem for several reasons. One is you're going to realize all the ways that you can take action. You never have to be sitting still. There are always areas in which you can take action on. It also shows all the incredible opportunities that you have to create this kind of next layer in your business, which is creating a category of one business. A business that cannot really be compared to everyone else. At our facility, Miracles Fitness, we were determined to create a business model that nobody could really look at and say, oh, I can do the same thing. Because you can't match every distinctive aspect of our facility and our ecosystem, okay, that I'm going to talk about. Category 1 business, John Calloway wrote a book about this, and he said, look, you have to be competitive on product, service, and quality, right? You have to be competitive on those points. But once you're competitive, once you have those basics down, in order to create a category of business, you have to consider 3 customer rules. Okay, 1, you have to know more about the customer than anyone else. That 2, you have to get closer to the customer than anyone else. And 3, you have to emotionally connect with the customer better than anyone else. We spend a lot of time talking about the values of this demographic, for instance. Why do we talk about values? That's not like a quick, easy marketing scheme. Okay? Because the values are what drive individuals. And as we get older, our values become very important to us. They determine our behavior and our buying behavior. Okay? So we need to get very intimate with this customer that we're trying to attract. So what I really want to talk about today then is going to put both those concepts together. How do we create a category of one functional aging business ecosystem that we can be successful with? And so if you're running a facility, this is going to be very applicable. If you are just working in a facility, you're going to see ways in which you can make improvements to increase your impact with those clients. Okay? Some of you have a very financial stake in what you're doing. It's your livelihood, correct? Okay? It's your career. And so you want to make sure that you do it right. And I think this is going to be a great roadmap for you to see, kind of in the spirit of Stephen Covey, to begin with the end in mind, right? Let's see the whole thing together and all the moving parts, and then we can start working on the areas that we need to work on, and we can start taking action on the areas that we need to work on. Now, since this ecosystem has many aspects to it and characteristics, I cannot go into full detail about every single one. But some of our speakers this weekend are going to go in more detail about each of those aspects. So I'm going to show you the ecosystem. I'm going to kind of give you this model. And I want you to do this along with me. So pull out a piece of paper. And I want you to get ready to draw this with me because you want to fill in kind of your own comments and notes as we go along here. Okay? Now, when we think about this aspect of the ecosystem, the first thing that we want to talk about is at the very center. So draw a circle in the very center, okay, probably about the size of a quarter on your paper. This is the heart of everything that we're going to talk about. Was Mark Middleton not inspiring? Was that not awesome stuff? I mean, wasn't that great stuff? You know what you need to be? You need to be the Mark Middleton of your community. That's exactly what you need to do. This here is your aging paradigm. Okay? This is going to drive your entire perspective for your whole business. And what you need to have, obviously, is what we would call a positive aging paradigm, correct? That you need to believe so much in the possibilities of getting older that you don't see getting older as any sort of limitation, but what you recognize is actually as you get older, there are lots of assets that grow as you get older. The current kind of thinking about getting older is that your liabilities increase, correct? That the bad stuff starts to pile up. But what we see is that, everybody has liabilities and limitations. 25-year-olds have liabilities, just as 75-year-olds have liabilities. But what we don't recognize often is that actually your assets really grow as you get older. What type of assets are we talking about? What about the asset of maturity or wisdom or experience or knowledge or freedom? What about the asset of financial security and growth and that accumulates as you get older? What about the asset of your self-esteem, your self-purpose, what Maslow would call self-actualization, right? You understand what your purpose has been in life. Okay. These are all assets that grow as you get older, and of course we can't forget one of the most important ones, and that's those little things we call grandkids, right? Which are incredibly important assets to your older clients and potential older clients, okay? So maybe you have never heard this term, geroplasticity. Has anybody heard the term geroplasticity? I don't know how, I just made it up. Have you heard about it? Geroplasticity is really, this is a term that I don't know that I've ever seen. I've Googled it everywhere and I haven't been able to find it, so I just put it together and made it up. So you've heard neuroplasticity, that refers to the brain and its ability to adapt and grow as we get older. So geroplasticity is simply this concept. It's our whole body's ability to continue to grow and improve and get better if there are positive lifestyle influences. You need to live and breathe this stuff, right? You need to be the embodiment of this positive aging paradigm, of the possibilities of getting older. How many messages do you see in your community? How many people do you see in your community that are really leaders and champions for this? I bet you don't see many, okay? This is going to help you to be a category of one business. That if you fully believe this and you send that message out in everything you do, guess what? You're going to energize your clients, you're going to infect your staff, you're going to create a culture, an environment that people are going to want to be a part of. Local media is going to see that and go, wow, you're doing something different. You're sending a bold message out, okay, that is very positive. People love positive messages. You need to be that person in your community. That is going to set you apart. Absolutely. When we look at our positive aging paradigm, we want to also look at it from a couple different perspectives. So take your circle, put an X through the middle, and then draw a horizontal line through that. This is going to be our positive aging paradigm, and we want to look at it from 6 perspectives. We want to look at it from a wellness perspective. This is the 6 Dimensions of Wellness, published by the National Wellness Institute. If you aren't familiar with this wellness model, go to their website. You can get a nice 2-page PDF that has this right here and explains all the aspects. The emotional, occupational, physical, social, intellectual, and spiritual dimensions that they're all important to us. But as an individual gets older, these other dimensions become even more important. Think about spirituality, for example. Okay? As you get older, your spiritual connectedness becomes more important to you because you are now approaching death, correct? I mean, you see that. Say, okay, my life is finite. It's going to end. And so you come to grips with your spiritual connectedness. I shared an article that was just published last week to our coaching group. And one of the marketing points that they made was don't be afraid to share spiritual messages. Don't be afraid to do that because that's very important to the individual. You're trying to create a category of one business, correct? And when you look at everything you do, your marketing and your sales, you've got to understand the individual from this multidimensional aspect. How many people are really exercising purely for the physical benefits? Especially for the boomer population, that's just one piece. But when you start talking about your ability to play with your grandchildren, you say, well, yeah, that's physical. Yes, it is, but isn't it way beyond that? Absolutely. That's very emotional. Okay? When you think about your ability to go for a walk with a loved one, man, that's very emotional. When you think about someone's ability to continue to give back to their community and volunteer, well, that could be very spiritual and it could be very social. So we need to embrace this as the center of our paradigm. I think it's very important. Now, that being said, I think a lot of trainers are a little bit more like these sharks in Finding Nemo. You remember these sharks? Bruce, Chum, and Anchor. Okay. What was their little slogan? Fish are friends, not food, right? Fish are friends, not food. And they kept saying it over and over again. In the end, what happened? They still wanted to eat the fish, right? They were trying so hard to kind of change their nature, and they couldn't do it. We have trainers that come to us, and they're like, man, this is all really exciting, and I really want to tap into this. I mean, I really don't like working with older adults. You know? And I'm like, well, then I don't want to help you. You just need to leave, right? And I tell them that very bluntly. If this is not at the core of your being, which all of you it probably is, okay, then I think a lot of us is just going to be, we're chanting it, but we're not believing it. You know, the older adult population, they can see right through us. They can see that falseness to us, okay? And so you might have even others in your community that are trying to market and trying to sell to older adults and might have a program for seniors, right? But yet, a lot of times, they don't really believe it to their core like you are, because you're going to be that messenger. So I think this is very, very, very critical, okay? Now I want you to draw another circle right outside of that circle. And you notice my artistry is horrible, so my circles might be ovals or blobs. And this is going to be our mindset circle. So add mindset in there. Now, there are many different aspects about mindset that we could talk about, right? It's a big area. There are only two that I really want to address right now. The first is that it's so critical that if you're going to be successful, that you really identify and destroy self-limiting beliefs. You must identify and destroy self-limiting beliefs. Trust me, I know all about this. I've had plenty. Give you one example that was very critical. It's kind of a breakthrough for me. A few years ago, before FAI had even formed, Dan and I were getting into the online business, developing fitness products for older consumers online. And as we went through this process, and people over here making millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars, having all these launches, and you start looking at those numbers, and it just scared me. I mean, it really scared me. And you think, how can the possibility of making a lot more money scare you? And right about that time when I was really struggling with this, and I didn't know why I was struggling with it, and Dan and I kept having these conversations. He's like, why do you keep having all this negative self-talk? Fortunately, Bedros, who was our mastermind coach, happened to send us all an audiobook that was by T. Harv Eker, and it's Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Has anybody read this or done this audiobook, right? It helped me to identify that I had a dysfunctional relationship with money, and I didn't realize it. And you know where it stemmed from? It stemmed from my mom. It's because when I was growing up, we were very middle class, very average middle class. We didn't have a lot. We weren't poor, right? We were just kind of right in that we're okay category. But I had a lot of friends who were part of the country club set. You know, their parents were doctors and lawyers and very successful businessmen and women, and they had lots more money, drove better cars, went on way cooler vacations. They were the ones that were skiing all winter long when I waited until they had like a free pass so I could rent my skis and go, right? And what happened was, because I grew up in kind of this conservative Christian household who didn't have a lot of money, my mom kind of ingrained in me this belief that those people that had money were immoral and unethical people. And there were instances that happened in my experiences that kind of reaffirmed that and was kind of like, see, I told you so. For example, I'll give you one. About a year after I graduated high school, a good friend of mine who I graduated with moved in and started living with the mom of another friend of mine who I graduated with. And awkward, yes, very weird. And she just happened to have been one of those country club moms. They had lots of money. I think her husband was an attorney. They ended up getting divorced, But it was that reaffirmation, see what I'm told you. And it wasn't that direct, but I realized I've got a dysfunctional relationship with money, and I'm feeling guilty for thinking that I'm going to make money. That's what it came down to. I felt all this guilt. Well, weren't you just satisfied with a normal job, right, and a regular salary? And when I finally identified and worked through those self-limiting beliefs, I now realize, you know what? I'm not in love with money at all. What I'm in love with opportunity. I'm in love with the freedom that money can bring. I'm in love with the idea that, wow, me and my family could do something experientially together that would require money to do that. I love the idea that we're able to support charities that we'll tell you about later and help people all around the world. That's exciting, right? That's good stuff. But I had to really kind of identify and destroy those self-limiting beliefs. Dina, that I mentioned, is another example of kind of destroying self-limiting beliefs. Because she has been in the training business for less than 2 years, she struggles with, am I a good enough trainer? Right? Do I know enough? I mean, all you guys have been training for decades. You know way more. You have way more experiences. I'm just not good enough. And so we are always trying to bolster her up and say, Dina, look, you've taken more action to get more training than most trainers do in 10 years. So you've got plenty of knowledge and skills and abilities. You need to approach your clients with confidence, right? To say, I can help you. Because if you don't believe that I can help that person walking in the door and that they need me, then I'm okay with them not joining and walking back out the door, right? You should feel like you have failed them if you don't close the sale, because you've done them a disservice by not showing the value and opportunity you could provide to them, okay? I guarantee you that by the work you're doing, grandchildren will thank you. Don't you think that's right? That the grandchildren will thank you? Absolutely, right? So you need to get over these self-limiting beliefs so you can keep taking action. The other aspect that I want to talk about very quickly that's at the core of everything we do is what I would just kind of call the entrepreneurial trifecta. These are the 3 aspects that I think we all need to keep in balance. That we need to keep in balance. Okay, so we need to think about how we're helping people, a lot of people in significant ways, making lots of money, and living a very satisfying, fulfilling personal life. Don't these things need to be in balance? Does everybody have a financial number that you're working for? Raise your hand if you know your number. Like, if I get to this point, I'm satisfied, okay? What if you could make twice as much, but it would impact your personal life? Would you do it? Maybe. Depends on how much it impacts your personal life, right? You have got to make that decision. I've got to know what I'm working towards. Okay, I don't want to know how much money is going to be enough, because if you don't know how much money is going to be enough, guess what? No amount of money is ever going to be enough, and you're going to start chasing it. You can't get sucked into that. There's a really growing movement in medicine for cash-based physical therapy and medical services. Familiar with this? There are physicians and therapists who are getting rid of the insurance reimbursement system altogether and going fully cash-based. An article recently interviewed a physician who made the transition. He said, look, I made a choice that instead of having to cram in hundreds of clients and spend just a few minutes with them and have the insurance company dictate who I treat and how I treat, I got rid of that altogether. I treat about 60 clients. I spend as much time as I want with them. I treat them how I want and how I feel like they need to be treated. And I make about $200,000, which is way less than he could make in a traditional practice, and I'm fine with that. He has made a decision to create that balance. He knows his number. I am fine with making $200,000, even though I could make $500,000 or more. Okay? You've got to figure that out. The picture in the middle of the triangle, that's my oldest son, Carter. This was last year at the state championship football game. I do get kind of teary-eyed a lot. Just worry about that, okay? It's just kind of part of who I am. So anyway, last year, they went to the state football championship. I was there. This is actually him celebrating. He played on defense. He had just sacked the quarterback. He fumbled. Another player picked up the ball. See, I'm going to cry now. And returned it for a touchdown. Okay? Very proud dad moment. I wouldn't have missed that for the world, right? I had to be there. But you know what I had to do? You don't know how far you're going to go in the state tournament, right? It's a week-by-week decision. So what did I have to do? I had to turn down opportunities to go to conferences and to speak and to do things to make sure my calendar was clear in order to make sure I was there, right? So I had to give up something in order to get that, and that was important to me. You've got to find out what those areas are of your life that you do not want to give up, okay? This coming year is my son's senior year, So I've already cleared my calendar for the entire fall football season. I'm not going to miss a Friday night, okay? This is very important that you understand what each of these areas of your life needs to look like in order for you to walk away and be very satisfied with your business, okay? Because this is going to be different for all of us. So very two critical aspects of mindset. Okay, the next part of this that I really want to focus on now becomes a little bit kind of mechanical in your business. METS. M at the top, E on the side, T at the bottom, and S over here on this side. So this is kind of the mechanical parts of your business, which we're going to learn a lot about this weekend. Marketing is the M. Other people, like Nicole is going to speak later, Dustin is going to speak about marketing, how to improve your marketing efforts. So I'm not going to really talk a lot about kind of the mechanics of marketing. What I will say is that if you got these things at the center correct, like you've got the correct paradigm, this correct wellness view, that's going to enhance all of your marketing efforts. What did Mark Middleton say that you're selling? You're selling exercise? You're not selling exercise, are you? You're selling the benefits of exercise for their life. And you've got to be able to be able to communicate that very clearly. The one thing that I want to talk about with marketing that I think a lot of business owners don't fully have developed, even though you've probably heard of this over and over again as you go to different events, but most business owners don't really sit down and make the hard decisions on this, and that is, I want you to think about who is your ideal client. Who is your ideal client, right? And we're going to do a little something together, so kind of get your hands free. You're going to clap for me, okay? Now, every time I say something that you think, yes, that's what I want in an ideal client, I just want you to give a clap, okay? So every time I say something, I'm just giving you a list of stuff. All right, ready? I want clients that are motivated, have a good personality, show up on time, pay on time, love you as a trainer, love your facility, love the fellow clients, never complain. Whoa, that's a good list, right? So now what I want all of you to do is to leave here, go to an exotic beach somewhere and start looking for a bottle and hoping a genie is inside, okay? Because that, my friends, is a wish list. That is not an identification of your ideal client. Okay, we all want those things. Are you telling me that if someone complains a little bit, you don't want them as a client? Well, it depends on how much they complain, right? But not everybody is going to be perfect. So what we need to do is need to find our ideal client based on some other characteristics. Of course, you need age, gender, you kind of need income level. Those things are important. But you also need to have a solid list of who these people are. If you really want to enhance your marketing efforts, this is what you need to think about. Where do they live? Like, what neighborhood do they live in? Where do my ideal clients live? Where do my ideal clients shop for food and clothes? What restaurants do they go out to? What recreation do they like to engage in? Is it golf? Is it tennis? Is it something else? Where do they worship? What charitable organizations do they support? What community organizations are they involved in? And what is kind of their health and functional status? These are critical elements because when we think about the category of one business, you have to know more about these clients than anyone else, correct? Then you have to get closer to these clients. How are you going to get closer to them? You know these things. Our clients, and even other ideal clients who haven't joined our facility yet, tell Dan, man, I see you everywhere. Like you're all over the place. Dan isn't everywhere. We happen to be wherever our ideal clients are. So they think we're all over the place, right? Because we are supporting the charitable organizations they support. We are involved in those community organizations that they're involved in. Okay, we are everywhere that they are. We direct mail to their neighborhoods. Okay, we are on the Facebook groups that they're a part of. Okay, so all these things are very important, are going to enhance your marketing efforts. But until you really define your ideal client, you're not going to be able to reach them. So let's kind of stop saying, oh, we're going to help everybody, or we're going to help all older adults. You're not going to help all older adults. Figure out who you want to help. As an example, some of you may want to help more of the frail elderly that have lots of chronic health conditions. And others may look at that and go, no, I don't really want to do that, right? I really want to work more on this other higher, more athletic, master's athlete end of things. There's opportunity for that, but are you going to market to those two groups the same way? No, absolutely not. One of our mastermind members had a great breakthrough in our last meeting because she does online health coaching. And she was kind of struggling with this idea of her business because she hadn't fully defined who she wanted to work with. And through this conversation, she just kept saying, I don't like working with women. I don't want to work with women. Okay, then you don't have to work with women, right? Nobody's forcing you to. It sounds like you naturally attract to work with men. Yes, I do. Any type of man that you kind of feel like you work well with? Well, these men that have gone through a divorce recently or widowed and kind of now they're older and single again and kind of struggling through the emotions of that and learning how to take care of themselves. I mean, I tend to attract those people. Do you like working with them? Oh yeah, I love it. I can really help them. Guess what? That's your ideal client. And so now she has a very focused group that she's going to go after who have a message that they're going to connect with, correct? Because how you speak to that group is very different than how you might speak to other men, okay, in the same age category. So it's very important that you really define your ideal client, okay? The environment that I want to talk about really comes down to several aspects of your facility. There are 3 distinct environments that you need to consider that overlap: the physical, the social, and the emotional environments. These are all important. The physical environment can be a big boon to your business, and it can be a big limitation in how successful you are. People will often walk into our facility and say, well, I would never work out here. And we say, good, because guess what? You're not our ideal client. Okay? We don't have any weights that are really heavy. I think we go up to 50 or 60 pound dumbbells. We don't have any bench presses, squat racks, okay? No free weights like that at all. It's a very kind of tame facility. But guess what? Our ideal client walks in and goes, oh, finally, I don't have to look at this sea of equipment that intimidates me, right? That I don't know how to use. And so therefore, the physical environment really impacts the emotional aspect for the client as well, right? So you need to think about even the color of your walls and your floors and everything. How can you kind of upgrade your facility a little bit in order to make it very appropriate for that ideal client? Unfortunately, being in fitness for a long time, what I've seen over and over again is trainers set up a business that is comfortable for them, and they're not the ideal client, right? I don't care how much you like lifting some sort of big Atlas stone, right? You don't need to have it in your facility if it doesn't hit your ideal client's interests. So you need to keep your interests separate than the ideal client. What is our rule? The customer is right. In fact, what John Calloway would say in his category of one business it goes beyond that. It says not only the customer is always right, the customer makes the rules. And if you can kind of adapt your thinking to realizing it's the customer that makes the rules, you're going to be much better off as a facility. So choosing equipment and layout and design, if you can improve that based on your ideal client preferences, that's going to help you. Okay, the social aspect is kind of very obvious. It's a very social group. We need to create interconnectedness. People will quit a facility. They will quit a place. But older adults have a very difficult time quitting people. So once you kind of embed them into the social fabric of your facility, that's going to keep them for a lot longer. Okay, don't let them be anonymous. Don't let them be on their own. Always promote that social connectedness. And it's got to go beyond the trainer and the client. It's got to get to clients with other clients. You've got to create that as part of your social fabric. Okay? The last part of that is the emotional factor that I've already kind of mentioned in looking at the physical environment. I would often show a picture of a large gym to older adults when I was speaking to them. I would show them kind of typical images of your mainstream youth-focused gyms. And always it was kind of a sense of almost disgust and like, I would never go into a place like that. All right? I don't want to be in an environment that is going to make me feel uncomfortable. Think about this. If your ideal client like ours is one who hasn't worked out in 40 or 50 years in a facility, they're going to have a lot of preconceived ideas on what that's like. And so you need to break those down. You need to realize that they're coming in with a lot of emotional risk. And we need to reduce that risk because they're worried. Am I going to make a fool of myself, right? Are people going to be watching me and kind of laughing at me because I can't do the movements and I don't know how to work out on a machine and you name it. Lovely woman, Dottie Drake, that we've known for a number of years, started some facilities up in her kind of home area in New Jersey. And she was an overweight, out-of-shape nurse who had recently been divorced because her husband left her. She was in a bad spot. Well, her daughter got her into exercising in her bedroom. And she started to realize, wow, this exercise stuff is good for me. I'm feeling better, right? I'm both physically and emotionally, I'm feeling better. I need to go work out somewhere. I need to find a gym to join. And so she started going out to all these gyms with kind of this newfound excitement. And she relates one story that I think really captures kind of the difference. She walked into the gym and kind of was, the person at the front desk was very dismissive of her. But she wanted to just look around, so she went and looked around. So she's looking at the weight machines, and she had read some research, and she's a nurse, read some research about the benefits of strength training and thinking, yeah, I need to do that. So she's sitting down on a machine trying to figure it out, and this big hulking guy comes over and looks at her like, hey, lady, what are you doing? Can't you see that's my machine? I'm getting ready to get on it, right? And she just kind of like, okay, and cowered away and was just really emotionally distraught by that experience. In fact, she really couldn't even find a facility that she walked into and felt welcomed and comfortable and accepted, and that's why she started her own. She said, well, I'm going to start a place for people like me that don't want to go to the typical gyms. In some ways, you need to build kind of the anti-gym. You need to have that anti-gym mentality. All based on what? What does this new type of client want out of a facility? How do I handle their physical, social, and emotional needs when they're coming in? Okay? So the environment is very important. The T down here then is our training. I don't need to spend any time about training other than if you haven't gotten the functional aging specialist certification, what are you waiting on? Hint, hint, right? But also we're very excited about the new partnerships that we are bringing. We want you to continue to grow and learn and evolve in your knowledge and your skills and abilities. Okay, so you need to continue to do that. The training part is also a very big component that feeds into the environment, wouldn't you say? Okay, and kind of how do you set up your training in order to facilitate those functional improvements versus other improvements that other gyms might look at? Okay, we're not necessarily worried about getting six-pack abs unless your client happens to want that. Do you think you can have a 75-year-old client who wants six-pack abs? Yeah, absolutely, right? They vary tremendously. But that's probably not their primary reason for working out. Okay? It's almost like a subcategory. And we've had those clients. But you need to make sure that you develop your training so it meets, again, their needs and always stays focused on that. I often tell people, make sure you keep the functional part in everything you do. Right? Think about how this is going to translate into their real life and communicate that with them. How this is going to help them. All right, sales is the last piece of this puzzle. Again, you need to take a different approach to sales. How many of you are, if you sit down with a client or a potential client to try to sell them on a long-term program, how many of you would say that you close 5 out of 10 or more of those clients? Okay. How many close 6 out of 10 or more? 7 out of 10. 8 out of 10. 9 out of 10. 10 out of 10? Okay, so if you're at 8 out of 10 or more, that's where you need to be. If you're not there, you need to improve your sales. You need to improve your sales process. there is a sales method that we've developed that we think works really well. In fact, we've used it for years. And I just want to show it to you very briefly just so you understand how different the process is. This is what we call the trajectory sales method. And it's based on a diagram of the functional trajectory of aging. So this is kind of the end result. We don't use this with our clients as is. We draw it all out by hand, right? We take them on a journey along with us. The bottom line is the disability line, the bottom horizontal line. And so you can see that, as a person grows and matures, their functional abilities, their physiological abilities increase. They peak at some point in life and start kind of this decline. And even if you're active, even if you're an athlete, there is a decline that occurs. You just happen to peak higher, but you do decline. So the question that people have in their mind, because this is very important, is at what point does a person reaches that disability threshold? When they can no longer do the things that they need to do in life, when they can no longer climb stairs and drive a car and take care of themselves. Do you think that this is a concern in the minds of older adults? Absolutely, right? They're thinking about that because they're looking at others around them going, so-and-so can't do X, Y, and Z, and I don't want to be like that, okay? So-and-so that I know has developed dementia. Man, I really don't want to do that. I don't want to go down that path. They're very concerned about kind of where they're going to be, and this resonates with them. When you let them kind of fill in the story of what are the things in their life that they need to keep doing, they look like, yeah, what I realize my trajectory is probably going downhill, and I don't know when, but probably I will end up in that kind of disability level. Now, the top vertical line is kind of a line that we've added that is a little bit different, and that is, okay, some people might not be that concerned about disability, and maybe they are a little bit more active or a little bit more healthy, but they are definitely concerned that they're not going to be able to do the stuff in life that they like to do, right? Do I have to give up golfing? Am I going to have to give up golfing? Am I going to have to give up water skiing, right? Like Banana George really love to do. What are they passionate about? What are the things that they like to do? As they look for the next 20 years in life, and you say, okay, I'm 65 and I'm probably going to live to into my 80s, maybe 90s. What are those years going to look like? Because nobody wants 10 more years of life if it means I'm going to have to be disabled or if I can't do the things I love to do, correct? Right? None of us want that. And so this resonates with them when they start filling in, man, oh yeah, we've just had grandchildren. I want to make sure that I'm there for them as they grow up. We had a client recently who just wrote us a letter, unsolicited letter, and he was talking about how he realized in his late 80s that he wanted to be around, and he didn't think he was going to be able to be around for certain milestones with his grandchildren. And as he went through the training process, he started to realize, hold on, why can't I still be around in my early 90s when they graduate high school? Hold on, why can't I be around in my mid-90s when now some of them are graduating college and they're getting married, right? He started projecting into the future going, hold on, you've just gotten me into such good shape. I'm going to be able to do all these things that I had actually thought I would never do, all these life experiences. That's so valuable and important and meaningful. And so we use this approach to look at what's important to you in your life, what resonates with you, and guess what? We are going to help you to be able to do those things for as long as possible, and a lot longer than you can do right now based on your current trajectory, right? Because people, they feel that downward decline, right? The aches and pains are increasing. I'm not doing enough. I'm having difficulty already doing some of these easy things, and so that starts to spin around in their mind, okay? So you're getting inside that conversation in their head, and you're letting them fill in those details. Great approach, and I think you'll have really good success with it. Okay? So that's kind of the sales approach that you've got to improve upon. Okay, so as we kind of go to the next layer, and I'm going to put this in kind of a dashed line right here. And what I want you to fill in there is culture. What is your culture? Your culture is going to be determined by everything inside that dashed circle. It's going to emanate from this fantastic view of aging that you're going to bring to your community and potential clients and current clients. It's going to emanate through your mindset. It's going to emanate throughout everything you do mechanically with your marketing, the environment, the training, the sales. That's going to become your culture. If you've got a culture in mind that you're trying to establish, then you need to work backwards and say, okay, is everything in alignment inside that circle with that culture that I'm trying to create? And that culture is a critical piece. You know that older women primarily do not want to buy a brand. Don't think about this. They don't primarily want to buy a brand. You know what they want to do? They want to join a brand. Think about how different that is. I don't want to just buy this brand. I want to join what that brand stands for and what it's trying to accomplish. Older women want to be connected very closely with the products and services that they engage in. In fact, they're getting to the point in their life where they're realizing, I don't have to use any product or service that doesn't meet my values, right? If I wanted to only support companies that support the environment, I can do that. Okay? They can create their own little kind of environment based on the products and services that they bring into their personal life. Okay? So you need to think about how important that culture is in reaching your ideal client as well. All right, the last thing that I'm going to put up here, this is the outer circle, the final layer, and that's your network. That's your network. Those are all the other local businesses and organizations that are vital for you to reach out to and to be involved in. You will be way more successful if you create a very robust network in your community. So there are things like B&I, the Business Networking Group. Who is involved in a B&I group right now? Okay? If you have not heard of B&I or you don't know about B&I, one of the things that you need to do when you get home, you need to look up your local B&I chapters and start visiting them. Okay? It is a business networking group designed to help refer business back and forth. Some of the groups are very robust and very successful. Others are a little bit more mediocre. So you've got to find kind of what it's like. And they only allow one person in each category to join. So they would only allow one trainer to join a networking group. Okay? Great source, because a lot of those businesses are serving your clients and you want to reach them, okay, your potential clients. So it's things like B&I. It's local businesses that you cooperate with, like, hey, where do my ideal clients eat? Right? What restaurants do they like to eat? You think you might want to develop a relationship with that restaurant? Absolutely, right? Do some cross referrals? Yes, of course. Okay? The local organizations and charities, do you want to get involved with those? Absolutely. What about Rotary, Kiwanis, Noon Optimist? Are you speaking at those places? Have you been invited? Do you visit those? You need to be involved very robustly in all those areas, because that's how you're going to get closer to the customer than anyone else. You are going to be everywhere that they are. And they're going to not be able to ignore you. They will have to make a decision. Wow, I'm not going to go to that facility, or I've got to give in, and I've got to go. Okay? And if you have developed the right messages, okay, it's going to work. Okay? You are going to get lots of new leads and lots of new clients. So this is our business ecosystem with all the different parts and pieces. I need you to take a good, solid look at your ecosystem and say, okay, am I ignoring pieces of this? Do I need to adjust? Do I need to move? Do I need to shift? Do I need to tackle some new areas in order to be successful? Okay? It's very important that you kind of look at this as an ecosystem. And then you need to take lots of action. Lots of action. Even if it's imperfect, you just need to get out there and start doing it. Start moving quickly. This is JC Gingenbach. She just joined our mastermind group just a couple months ago. And I want to mention her. Love for you to take a few minutes to meet her at some point during your weekend. She has run a facility for years. This is her working with one of her clients on the left. This client has Parkinson's. She has a special affinity and skill for working with Parkinson's clients and runs several Parkinson's groups in her area and in her facility. She loves that. That's her passion. Her reason for joining Mastermind and trying to make a seismic change in her business is the other picture. That's her son, Tristan. If she was up here, she would be very emotional, let me tell you. She has decided she can no longer run her business the way it's been run because she has no time to spend with her son. She has no time because she is working in her business 60 hours a week, right, trying to do everything, and she's got to the point where, look, I've got to make a change. I've got to make some changes in my system and in my whole ecosystem because it's just not working. She looks at her life and says, is it worth doing what I'm doing and not spending time with my son? Some of you are probably like that, right? Your business is running you rather than you are running your business. So she's about to take on, and she has started taking on some massive changes in her business. She's gone from completely one-on-one training, now she's implementing small group personal training. She has been successful now at hiring another trainer to take on some of that load, so now she can take her son to school in the morning, she can be there in the afternoon when her son gets out of school, right? And she's no longer absent all the time. In fact, one of the pictures that I was going to show was of Tristan in her office with, all his kind of stuff around him, because that's kind of where that's kind of his second home, right? Because she couldn't leave the office ever, and so her son, if she wanted to spend time with him, had to come to the office and kind of see her in between stuff, right? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. So taking lots of massive action is going to help JC make that seismic shift. And so I just want to leave you with this quote by Tony Robbins. A real decision is measured by the fact that you've taken a new action. If there's no action, you haven't truly decided. So as you go through this weekend, as Lindsay has already pointed out, you need to start making that action list. What are the things that I need to do, maybe even right now, that you can start working on right now, that you can spend time this evening working on, okay, to get ready to take back to your business and start making changes. Okay, it's possible to come back next year to have your best year yet. And I am so excited for a lot of you because I think some of you are going to get out there and you're going to do it and you're going to rock it and you're going to come back energized and excited. And you know what? You might come back and be the speaker on the stage because you have gone out there and you've rocked it and you have something to share to the rest of us to help us continue to improve our business. So get out there and take action. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn it back over to Lindsay.